Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live Out Loud Wednesday. Tonight, we are talking about domestic abuse awareness due to this is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. This subject can be a little touching and or triggering to some. So if you think that this can be triggering to you, then please either be aware of it and or log off now. We have a special guest, Pinky, today. She's going to share with us some of her experiences and what she had going on with domestic abuse, and then we all will talk about our experiences as well. Hey, Pinky, you're muted still.
Hey,
Can you give us a little bit of your story?
so this was my first relationship after my kid's dad. Um, it was somebody that grew up in my neighborhood, thought I knew, and so I lived in Chicago at the time, and at first everything was good, and then it just started to get bad, like day for day, like he would pick arguments, and then it just started to be like, first it was like loud arguments, and then I remember him saying something like, um you can't leave me just because I had 5 kids at the time. And then he started to start acting nice, and it was just weird. I thought we were getting good, getting better or whatever. And he would like, I had a friend that stayed upstairs on the third floor, and she would ask me to go out with her, and he'd be like, "Yeah, it's okay." And then I would go out, and of course, I'm partying, so it's like I'm partying and I'm getting drunk, and it's like every time I get home, it's a fight, it's an argument. So I remember one time coming home from the club, and I don't even remember what the argument was about or started from. All I remember was we ended up in the bathroom, and he slapped me, but he slapped me so hard that I hit the sink, and that was the last thing I remember until waking up to him slapping me because he thought he had killed me. And like, I remember my auntie telling me, she was like, because she used to be in an abusive relationship, but I didn't know it at the time because I was too young. So I remember her telling me one day, like, niece, if you ever get into a relationship and your boyfriend be hitting on you, she was like, if you choose to stay, you better learn how to fight back. And so that made me realize, like, I couldn't just keep letting him fight me like that. And so, because I wasn't ready to leave, you know? And so I ended up hitting him in the hitting him in the face a couple of times with a iron skillet, and I think he had like 20 something stitches. And then I still didn't leave. And then we ended up moving to Oklahoma. And I remember when we got to Oklahoma, like it started off good once again. It started off good, and then it was like it just started escalated every time. It'd go from arguing to fighting, and I'm constantly covering up busted lips, bruises. Just and at the time I was so small because I was still real young that like you could literally squeeze my arm too hard and I'd be bruised. And so I stayed away from my mama a lot. Stayed from going to Chicago a lot, although I could, because I didn't want them to see me like that. And then I ended up finding out that him beating on me was a cover up because he was pretty much double abusing me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Um, him beating on me was a cover up for him actually molesting my daughters. So when I ended up finding that out, I ended up having him locked up, and the uh, the abuse continued for me. It continued, but it was like more like a psychological abuse. Like, although he did all of that to me, and he knew he did, he still wouldn't admit it. Even from jail, he would write me letters, and it was horrible. Like, it really, really put me in a real distraught place in my life. And I went through a phase where I couldn't sleep. And like even right now, still to this day, it affects me. Like I have a hard time sleeping during those hours. And it's like my body doesn't my body doesn't even really my mind doesn't know when those hours took place that he was molesting my daughters, but it's like my body knows because my body won't let, no matter who I'm with or where I'm at, my body will not let me sleep during those hours.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the last straw for me.
Thank you for
I've
sharing that.
never been I've never been physically abused since. I won't allow it.
You know, God is good, right? Because you were removed from that situation, and like you said, you were not in another situation such as that one ever again. But you're still dealing with the traumatic effects of that situation with your sleep pattern. God knows, I can only imagine what else you're dealing with based off of what you've gone through. So, first of all, I want to give you a lot of love and hugs through this podcast right now. I admire your strength and your ability to even speak on that, especially when your littles are involved. Um, I just want to say, my God, I am glad that you're out of that. Truly.
Me too. And I don't suggest nobody stay. Like I don't feel like the advice that my auntie gave me was okay. You know, like don't get me wrong, it was helpful because when that last thing had happened and I hit him in the face with the iron skillet, when we ended up moving back to Oklahoma, he wouldn't physically abuse me because he knew I would fight him back. So it was just like more verbally, more mentally, more psychologically, mind game, stuff like that.
Can I ask you a question?
Hmm.
You said that you were never in another abusive situation after that. Um, that's physical, right? Have you been in
Yeah.
an emotionally, psychological, mental, or emotional abusive situation since that situation? Have you been in any of those?
You're muted, Pinky.
The one who was emotional and it it was the same, just without. the physical abuse. Like everything was the same. The manipulation, the torment, you know, he used different ways to abuse me because he wasn't he wasn't a man who was um I would say not afraid to fight a woman. You know, he was one of those men who he watched his mom get beat. So that's the thing that he wouldn't do. But he abused me in other forms by manipulation, mind games, emotionally, and like he had this thing where he wanted to make me have to need him instead of wanting him. So like he would manipulate me in a way and be like, "Oh, you don't have to work. I'll get 2 jobs. I'll get 3 jobs if I have to." But then it would come to the point where if I gotta ask for some money or something, I gotta either beg for it or I gotta explain what it's for, and it's gotta be all this detail, and then I gotta go through interrogation about why do I want or need it. It was a whole lot with him, all to avoid the fact that he was trying to do the same thing too. So it's like a common trait, just one with a piece missing.
I asked you that question because I know that there are people that are probably listening that, again, their minds like to go to physical as being the sole source of abuse. And so when people were probably listening to you tell your story just now, people are like, oh, well, ain't nobody kicking on me or ain't nobody hitting on me physically. People are not. But you have to keep in
Say the
mind that
same
just
thing
because,
too.
yes, that they're just because they're not hitting you does not mean you're not being abused financially, emotionally, mentally. There's other different ways psychologically. There's other ways that you can be abused. There's narcissistic disorder abuse. There's all kinds of different ways that a person can be abused. And so what I don't want people to do every time we do these is get that notion in their brain that they're in a healthy relationship just because nobody's, kicking them in
Hit
their head or,
right.
so that's why I wanted to ask you if you've experienced it in any other form.
Yeah, I've experienced it in all forms of fashion, and I'm just glad that God has given me new discernmentship, you know, to see those things out. Like when I see it in a man that I'm dealing with, I don't even waste time. I nip it in the bud to him. Like, look, you might not see it as this, but this is a form of abuse. Let me explain to you how. And we're going to break it down because, like, even like, I have to look at it as too. Sometimes it, I can't always, just because it's the man doing it to me, I can't always blame him because a lot of men don't know that they're doing that. It's just what they've been around, or it's an aura that they have, that a trait that they've contracted from being around other people. So sometimes you have to, in, in order for a relationship to work, you have to be willing to teach as well as being taught.
And I love that. I love how you feel that way or you see something like that, you immediately let them know. I think that's so important too because like you said, some people just don't know. And like people watching right now don't even know that they're being abused or in an abusive situation because people just don't know. So I don't know. I'm just real proud of you. And I know it's so hard for me to sit and listen because it's like I know probably more than I should know about the situation. And I'm just sad that y'all had to go through that. And it's really tough when kids are involved too, because it's like, man, not only is you doing this to me, but you're doing this to my kids too. And now they've had to experience a form of abuse that no child should ever have to experience. and you dealing with your emotions and the things that you're going through while trying to support them through what they're going through. It's enough to really like destroy a person, you know, to tear a person completely to shreds. So I'm just really proud of you for picking yourself up and keeping going and finding your strength in that and being able to tell a man like, listen, hey, I don't like that, don't do that. You know, maybe you don't realize that this is a problem, but it is, because we talked about this maybe like last week or the week before. People expect you to come healed, and it's like ain't no such thing because I got a few issues. So be
Mm-hmm.
what those are and be willing to work. So I just want you to, and I love you.
I love you too.
I also want to say that, yes, I am proud that you were able to get through that, and just want to know, like, how are you dealing with it all today? Like, because I know that abuse is trauma, and sometimes we think like we're past that trauma when us as women, we learn how to suppress it versus deal with it. Um, and we think that part of suppressing it is actually dealing with it. Um, and in fact, we really haven't really dealt with it. And so sometimes it can sneak up on us later on in life, when it's least expected, and it comes back hitting us like a bus. And so, how are you dealing with it today and with your kids dealing with it?
I mean, most days I kind of try to as, as a way to just keep it off my mind. And a lot of times when I'm stressing, I'm really thinking about it. I draw.
Is it an open discussion with your children? Do you talk with them about it to let them know, like, it's not something that you just brushed under the rug,
Yeah.
and that you are aware of what happened to them, and that you are acknowledging that it happened,
Oh yeah.
and how it
I've
is that
definitely
you
acknowledged that it happened. Me and my kids, we've been through therapy for it.
feel. Okay.
Um, like we don't say his name, but a lot of times, yeah, we do dig into it.
You're muted again. Your phone muted.
Are we able to unmute her?
No, it's not allowing me. It says it's not connected.
Eric, is
Flossie?
there? Can you
There you
hear me?
go.
There you go.
Oh, okay, it was on me.
Sorry. No, I was
But
asking.
yeah,
I was
me and my
asking.
kids, we talk about it all the time. We'll sometimes we'll talk about just how we feeling about it now and how we used to feel about it. And I always talk with my daughter about making sure that my grandkids know as early as possible about bad touching. You know, and and whenever they old enough, talking about all forms of abuse, because like I say, a lot of us, we don't know. We're so straught up on the word abuse meaning hidden or fighting that we forget to teach people that abuse comes in all forms. And like a lot of people don't know that they're even abusing you.
Well, and abuse.
They're just so used to having their way with things that this is how they move. And it's like, they don't understand that this is a form of abuse. It's just not hitting.
Do you? I'm a firm believer that as women or as men who are abused, whoever is being abused, I believe that sometimes we can take fault ourselves, right? And we can make the issue our fault and try even harder. I was guilty of that. Try even harder to make said person love me because at some point I'm just hoping that this person is going to treat me better, right? I'm just hoping that this person is not going to continue to treat me better. So I would just stay with them and continue maneuvering through the day to day. And nothing changed. Yeah, it'll change for 2 weeks. The love bombing will happen for a few days or whatever, a couple weeks, give or take. But then that person goes back to being who they are. Again, the representative shows up here and there, and it's always some kind of motive. But what I really want women to really hone in on too, and even like you said, an abuser sometimes doesn't know that they're abusing you because that's just their norm and that's just their way of life. At that point, it becomes up to you to leave, walk away from a situation and say, hey, I'm better than this. I don't need to be a part of this because that person doesn't even know that they're harming you in that way, you know? So I think that's something that's very important that we get out there too, message wise, is that, hey, you know, yeah, they may not know that they're doing X, Y, and Z, but that doesn't give you the reason to have to stay in that situation just because they don't know or understand said abuse or what it is that they're doing. You have a responsibility to yourself to walk away from the situation or try best you can. I know it ain't that easy, wasn't that easy for me, but that's the truth.
I want to let you know I admire you being able to share your story. I know that is something that is tough. Some people don't like to show their wounds to people, but you're human. We love you. You've experienced it, but it's not who you are. And I appreciate that you have that open communication with your kids because sometimes people go through things and they blame their self and they shut everything else out. And you did not do that. So I just want to applaud you for that and your strength getting through that.
Felt like I did at one point when I went through that phase of not sleeping. Because when I went through that phase of not sleeping, I would get up in the middle of the night and like clean my house for no reason. Like the house could be clean and I'm just re-cleaning because, like I said, my body wouldn't let me sleep during those hours. So for me, I felt like I was blaming myself. And when I was talking with like my case manager, she was telling me like that could have been a form of me punishing myself for blaming myself.
It could have been that, but it also could have been a form of you feeling like you needed to cleanse your home. Sometimes when things happen to us that's traumatizing, um, we don't realize that we turn into and turn over into nesting. And so we think like if we cleanse our home, then that will set us free and clean us. And then it's kind of like that unspokenness. And so that's why I asked, like, is that a conversation that you and your children had? Because I know that back before, um, people used to just not speak on things. And so it was like if I cleanse this, then I don't have to speak of it because it's embarrassing and it's shameful and I don't know how to have this conversation. So let me just go ahead and cleanse my home and cleanse myself, and we'll be new again. And so it's a trait that women seem to have and not even realize that we have.
Yeah, that's true. And I didn't realize that I had that until I went to therapy and got help for it. And that's a lot of our keep quiet too. Is
Yeah.
instead of us, going to get the help that we need, we, like you say, brush it under the rug, keep quiet about it.
Well, because you don't know how to have that
And it
conversation.
wasn't until I went to therapy that helped me.
If there's a mother right now watching this live or they watch the recording later, is there something that you, now looking back, noticed but didn't notice right away, that maybe you could help someone stop something that could be taking place or potentially could take place in the future? Maybe a woman is like, this could be going on, but I don't know.
I mean,
Like any red flags or
it's
signs of something.
so there's so many there's so many different ways, so many different things. It's it, it- it's pretty much like telling somebody put a wall up. Like that's going to be the only way that you can protect yourself or your kids from it. You just got to put a wall up. And who wants to do that? Like you can't live, or you can't have a health, you can't learn to make a healthy relationship if you have a wall up, because there's going to be some flaws in both people, you know? So I mean, it's like, okay, so it's like I say, people wear masks. Everybody wears masks. We all wear masks. You know what I'm saying? Most of us have multiple masks that we wear because we're different around different people.
It's true.
So for me, it's like, as a woman and as a mother, you just have to look out for any and everything that doesn't feel right. And you just have to speak on it. You know, if it makes you have that yucky gut feeling, or that stomach crunching feeling, then you have to speak on it. You either gonna speak on it or you gonna move from it.
That is truth right there. Because so many of us, especially when we know that we've been through traumatizing thing, we second guess ourselves. We don't want to come off toxic. We don't want to come off as nagging. We don't want to come off as crazy,
Yep.
right? We suppress and
Mm.
we hold things back. But I
Yep.
love, because that's just that. If you don't feel right about it and it don't feel good to you, you owe it to yourself to, like you say, speak up about it or move on from it.
Yep.
I
A
agree with that.
woman is knowing too, like, how much of an investment do I want to put into this, and I feel this way. What
Mhm.
helps you to know if you're going to make an investment is the person's response to what you tell them about how you feel.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
they're not receptive, if they're not willing to work on it, then that lets
Mhm.
you know right there, okay, this ain't my person then, because I know,
Yep.
like you said, I got some stuff I'm dealing with. And I'm
Yep.
not going to act like I'm not dealing with this stuff to soothe you, because I'm on my healing journey, right?
Exactly.
And if a person isn't receptive of that or understanding of that, then either one, it's really like that and that feeling you getting is right, or two, they're not willing to go through it with you, to
Yep.
be gentle with you, to be delicate with you, to be intentional about how they treat you. And so either way
Mhm.
it go, you can move on from it. So I just love
Mhm.
that, because I know me, speaking from personal experience, I've been through so much, and I
Man.
second guess myself so many times about feelings that I felt, because I didn't want to be crazy. I didn't want to run them off.
Yep.
I didn't want, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I should have spoke on it in the beginning instead of letting it play out. So I love that. And thank you for sharing that, because a lot of women need to hear that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's all about learning how to love and be with yourself. you
Yes.
know in order for you to truly love somebody else to the point where you are willing to work on stuff like that, you have to learn how to love and be with yourself first, because then you gonna really sink in to all of the stuff that self don't really want to deal with, and that's gonna make you have that happy glorious time when you by yourself. It's because you gonna sit back and you gonna exhale and be like, whew, I don't got to go through that no more. Or I don't got to deal with this no more. Or I don't got to worry about him doing this to me no more. So, And then that's when you get that courage to, when you do step out there into another relationship and he do that, you like, excuse me, yeah, no, sir.
I have a quick story. I remember when my girls were young, and I was single again and dating, and my oldest daughter had like this vibe around this guy I just started dating. Well, not just started dating. Clearly, I kind of was around him before they met him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but she would never like sit by him. She would always
Mm-hmm.
be really whiny. Like she just never, and I cut it off right away.
Right.
I said, nope, it's something because I feel like I'm one of the people that I get energy from people and vibes,
Mm-hmm.
and my
Mm-hmm.
kids are like that. So if my
Yep, yep,
kids are
yep.
not comfortable around you, there's no point of me building nothing because it's like whatever it is that they see that I don't
Yep.
see,
Yep,
I
yep.
want
You
to
know,
nip it in the
go
bud.
ahead. Yep. And you know, it's crazy that you said that because remember I said I went through two relationships that were abusive like that, but they both were pedophiles, right? Now, one thing about it, after the first one, my oldest daughter, I would say about a few years after, she started having seizures. So she has seizures now. And it didn't click to me that her being around men with that energy triggered her seizures. So when I started dating that second one, I didn't bring him around my kids at first because I was leery, you know? And after the second or third time that she was around him, she had a seizure around him. And she always had seizures in his presence. And that right there, that let me knew that it was a trigger for her. So I just like now, mm-mm.
That just hit a point. My oldest daughter, with my last abusive relationship, started having seizures. Her first seizure was with him. They were in the parking lot picking me up.
Yep.
I never had any proof of any um, sexual abuse or anything, but he was physically
Right.
abusive to me, mentally abusive, financially abusive. The stress in the
Mhm.
house was so toxic
Mhm.
to where
Mhm.
she stopped having seizures at one point and they started to become anxiety attacks
Mm.
that looked exactly like her seizures. We didn't know. There was one day she had an episode and was in the hospital for 5 days because they were testing her to figure out what exactly was happening. They needed to figure out what it was. Um,
Yeah.
and I didn't even, that wasn't the first thing on my mind to say, oh, I'm in this toxic relationship. I could be hurting my
Right.
baby. You know what I mean? Like, I never
Right.
even
Yep.
put those two together until you just said that.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
So my daughter now, you know what I'm saying, because of that, she has stress induced seizures. Like she only has seizures when her body is completely stressed. But it's worse now because it's not only stress if she's around somebody like that. It's stress for anything. Like she could be extremely hungry and she can have a seizure. Thirsty, have a seizure. She can smell the wrong smells and have a seizure. So yeah, that's another thing that we have to realize as mothers is that our stress and our toxic relationships, they do weigh down on our kids. They do have effects on our kids.
I will say I know a handful of women who, and I'll also add my mother in there, that said, I want my kids to have a two-parent household and try to make things work.
Yeah,
That should not happen.
that should
Um,
not happen.
yeah, and I think as women we try to make things work because we're the woman, the healer, the the mother.
Mhm.
Maybe he needs me to mother and love him. Uh,
Mhm.
but a lot of times we end up wasting time with people,
Mhm. Yep.
time, energy, all of the above because we're trying to fix someone who doesn't even want to be fixed,
Mhm.
and we're draining ourselves.
Yep.
And in the process of that, it's like you're literally giving them the green light to be abusive to you
Yep. Most
because it's like
definitely.
she knows how I am. She's still hanging around, so I might as
Yeah.
well just act a clown. And it's
Yeah.
like now that he's acting a clown, it's like you just sitting there like, oh, he really put the clown shoes on. Yes, he put the clown shoes on, and now he acting a fool, and now you
But he's
sitting there looking
but
like the clown with them.
but he's so loving to me this week. He's so nice this
Yep,
week.
Yeah.
We're
And that's
getting
what they
along great this week
yep,
and next
and that's what
week
they gonna
and the
do
week
too.
after.
yeah,
That's what they gonna do too. They gonna,
Fuck
they
out of
gonna
here.
they gonna save face a little bit just so they
of
can get
course.
back in good graces,
Look at the
and
bag
then
he got
because
me.
they
Oh,
know that that's
yeah,
all they got to do is save
exactly.
face to get
Yeah,
back in good graces, and then once they get back comfortable, they go back to their old self.
yep. And that's exactly how it was. It was like a rotating clock with me. It was like, and you were in two domestic relationships. I was in three abusive relationships.
Mm.
I never experienced, like I said, anything like other than the abuse physically and mentally, but it was still just as
Mm-hmm.
bad. I mean, three back to back. So my whole adult life until after I was 30, what, 30 something, I was in abusive relationships. So it's like, then like Veronica said, you try to not be toxic and not deal with certain things. It's like that's how you are. Like I don't I don't know how to not think you're doing something wrong when that's what I'm used to. I'm thinking you're gonna be nice and then you're gonna be whatever afterwards. And then when it doesn't happen, it's like then you look like the bad person because you're standing on pins and needles, and it's like, but this is what I'm used to. I don't know what a non-toxic relationship is like. Like, how am I supposed
Let
to
me
love?
ask you something, Devin. In them relationships, because I see this too. In your relationship, did you compare the fact that this one wasn't just as bad as the first one? So it can't be abuse. It can't be that bad because this
Yeah,
one treated me worse. I went through a
Yeah.
lot worse with this one, so it can't be that. He's better than this one.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it
Yeah.
was like
I do
literally
too.
a stair step. It was like, okay, I was at the worst, then I went down a little bit. Then the third one was like, oh, but he got money. He got money, but he only hits
Yeah.
me every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. That's how my second one did me. He was like, "Oh, you could go to school. Don't worry about work. I'll work. I'll work two jobs, and
Yep.
you can go to school and get your beauty license and da da
Oh
da
my
da
god.
this and made it sound oh so good. But anytime I needed money, it was a problem. Like I used to have to still catch the bus to school halfway, and he got a car.
Yeah.
Just like
I remember
man,
going to
and
the
it was like
grocery store.
anytime I wanted something, like I would have to either, like I said, I had to throw a whole fit
Yeah.
and play attitude-ish and all that just to get him to do something for me,
I
and
remember
then he'd have a fit like if I would find a way to get it done without having to ask him, that would make him so mad.
He would just always be mad.
mhm. I remember I went to the grocery store. Every time I would go to the grocery store, all of a sudden I'm getting a call. How long you take at the grocery store? Why are you taking so long?
Mm.
Like what? I'm at the grocery
Girl,
store. What do you
what
mean?
about going to the gym and somebody coming over by your underarms and saying, "You ain't sweat enough. You ain't go to no gym."
Oh wow. Yeah. That sound like
Man, come
if
on.
I would have went to the gym, that sound like something he would have said.
Man, listen.
Listen, I want to back up a little bit, right? Back to what Miss Devon said about having a two-parent household, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put this out there. A toxic two-parent household is no better than you better off raising your child co-parenting separate places because the abuser can be a good parent. Let's put it, they can be a good parent. But just because you in the house together do not make it a healthy situation for the child. Now you're raising a child in a toxic environment and it's teaching this child what's acceptable in life. I think a lot
Mhm.
of us had those fall color glasses on growing up. We've seen a lot of bad influences and examples, but they stayed together. That's just what you did back in them days. You just stay together and you don't tell nobody your business.
You make your bed, you lie in it.
That's point blank period, right?
Yeah. He's a good man, Savannah.
It,
The good man.
pay the bills.
You go to
All that
church.
matter. He paid lights and put your lights out. But who's
Mm-mm.
you can't do that though because it produces women who then go through these type of situations. And the sad thing about it is that some people don't know how to come out of it. Some people think it's just really like this is life. This is just that. This is as good as it gets. So I just want to put it out there for women. If it's been a tradition, if it's been something that you just do just because you're supposed to do it because your mama did it, your grandma did it, or even men, if your daddy stayed and he never left his family, right? All of this good stuff. What are you really teaching your children? Do you want your child to go through what you're going through? Love your child enough. If you can't find the strength to do it for yourself, do it for your child. Love your child enough to not set them up to grow up and have to go through that because that's what children mimic, what they see. There's a few that say, I seen what my mama went through and I never go through that, right? But majority of them will say, well, my mama went through it, my daddy went through it. This is my family, our family.
This is how it goes.
Exactly. So let's cancel that out. Let's break that because that's not okay. It's not okay. And then another part of growing up or even being in three abusive relationships, like Miss Devin said, back to back, because I had three myself, is you become the abuser sometimes. Now you
Part.
finally get somebody, or maybe it's with that same person and you turn the anime in the back of that limo. Like, we ain't going, bro. This every day. What's up? Right? And it's like, that's not good. It's not good for you because you're a woman. You should be able to be a woman and you're a soft girl. You should not have to fight. You should not have to come home and put on boxing gloves every day. Right? Just because you can fight don't mean you should have to fight your significant other, whether it be man or woman. And a man's job is to protect a woman. You understand? I suppose we ain't supposed to be opponents. We ain't supposed to be in this corner, it's me, and that corner, it's you. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be we in life fighting life together. So it's hard to reverse some things, y'all, because I became the abuser, but not necessarily to my partners. I was angry, so I was like that with me. Like, I want to fight whoever, whenever, however. You know what I mean? Because I was so upset and so dark on the inside from being abused, being kicked down, being told I wasn't nothing, being treated like I wasn't nothing. So now I'm out here hurting other people that didn't even have nothing to do with it, but just because I'm so angry. So I just wanted to share that when y'all was talking about it, I was like, man, it's so many people, traditional, so many traditions where people, it don't matter what happened, you stay together. Man,
I
please.
want to talk a little bit about what you deserve to feel really quick. How you supposed to feel. Everything is not going to be perfect in any situation that you're in, right? Because we're not perfect people. But we have to stop giving grace and misconceptions to places that grace doesn't belong in. And one of those places is accepting mistreatment and bad treatment because it's happened only a couple times, and not actually putting yourself out there to receive soft love, soft spoken words. A lot of people think it's foreign to have somebody that actually treats them well, on a consistent basis, right? Consistently being consistent, communicating, loving on you, being loving, being supportive of your ventures, being supportive of what you have going on, wanting to know about your day, wanting to talk to you about whatever it is that makes you happy. Like for me, it was so foreign because of what I had just come out of, to where it was just like, I'm grateful that I didn't what was you know how sometimes we act a fool, like, hold up, I don't know if this is even real. I'm grateful that I didn't do any of that. I think I was just at the place in my life. I was 36, and I was just at a place in my life where I was just ready to be done. But a lot of people who are not at that place where they're ready to be done, and they leave a situation that's toxic, and they might meet somebody who treats them great or who's good to them on a consistent basis, may, Devin and Veronica just said, they may become that toxic individual going into something good. And so that's not healthy either. But really learning to recognize when people are genuine and good, when you're leaving situations that are not good for us, it's something that's not easy for us to do. And I'm not saying it's something you should be able to do on your own. It's not easy, but give yourself the chance to find somebody or something that's worth you, like worth your time, worth loving on you, because sometimes we block our own blessings by continuing to remain in situations that are detrimental for us. I don't want to get cussed out and pushed up against the wall and told that I'm worthless and all this, that, or the other. Like, and if there ain't nobody out there to treat me better than that at that moment, I need to step away and treat myself better at that moment. And then down the line later, maybe find someone else who's able to do that. But it's better to give yourself grace and walk away from situations like that than to stay in a situation that you're not being treated well in.
I have a transparency moment here. Um, Part of my healing journey before 40, um, I just sat and kind of, had an open conversation with my kids and my man and my mom, because that's our household right now, and just was really asking, what can I do differently? Like y'all said, you can become that abuser, right? So being honest, I have a bad temper. I do. My temper is terrible. So when there's certain things in my household that don't go the way that it's supposed to, I fly off the handle, because it's like, I've been homeless. I feel like our home should be a sacred place. There shouldn't be this sitting out here, and there shouldn't be that. And you know what I mean? Like, there's certain things where I just feel like, why is this not happening when I ask it to happen? So the moment that I found out that that was being me being toxic to my own children, to my own relationship, um, it broke me down. I didn't realize that I became my father. My dad used to scream and yell and but he was the greatest man in the world. And I'm pretty sure there's somebody who's probably going to watch this and go back and say something, but that's my truth. We used to have to be on pins and needles in the household. And I didn't realize that that's the energy I brought to my own household. So it hurt me to realize, all these years of you not wanting to be someone terrible, and then that's exactly who you become. It's like, it's still a process right now. It's still me trying to figure out, how do I not be this person, because I've been this person for 39 years. How do I not be angry about certain things that literally just trigger me? It's like an automatic, like, I could be sitting and then they could do something and then I just start snapping. And it's like, I don't mean to be hurtful. I don't mean to just be this way, but it's like, I don't even know how to not react to certain things. And then it's like, if I don't react, then I'm a pushover. So it's like, sometimes I don't even say nothing, because I'm like, I know I'm going to snap. So let me just not even say nothing, because if I say something, it's going to escalate. And then now she won't talk to me. And you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I'm being honest. It's just one of those moments where it's like, I'm in that pivotal moment. How do I not become an abusive person to my children or anyone else, because something is, I wouldn't say hurtful to me, but not going the way it's supposed to, because you want your children to be a certain way. And like my oldest daughter always tells me, Mommy, I'm not you, I'm not perfect. And I hate that she says that, because I'd never want her to be perfect. I've never told her to be perfect. But I do always want the best for my children. But I guess my attitude makes them feel like I want them to be perfect. So I guess I became the abuser in that perspective. And sorry that I'm starting to cry, but it's the truth. When you become what you see. And I tried my hardest to keep my kids away from that, and then I became a different version of that. Um, so yeah, there's women who I'm pretty sure who probably do the same thing. I used to never punish my kids when I was going through abuse and all that, because I didn't want to deflect on them, which turned them into being spoiled because they weren't punished for certain things. So then that trickles back down to now I have teenage and adult children who are like, well, this is how we grew up. You spoiled us, so we're supposed to still be spoiled. And it's like, no, I spoiled y'all because I was going through a midlife crisis with everything I was going through, and I didn't want to dump everything on you. So I don't know. I'm going in circles, but
You're
yeah,
not. We,
that's what I'm
you're not.
right now. We're just unpacking that, trying to figure out, you want to bring a new chapter in your life, 40 in. How do you unpack all of these bags that you didn't even know were there? I didn't even know they were there until we had that conversation. And it's like, since then, I've been trying to be that voice of reason and not snap and not this. And even just over the last weekend, when my friend was here in town and my daughter said something to me, and I just looked away, and she's like, "You ain't gonna say nothing?" And I was like, No, because I know it's gonna escalate and go a whole different way, and I don't want this day to be like that. So no, I'm not gonna say nothing.
I think I'm gonna piggyback off of that also. When you are in a circle of abusive relationships, you would tend to also lose yourself. And in that mix, I think that it is fair to say take the time to really figure out what it is that you really want in life. Um, Trying to get involved with somebody not knowing what it is that you really even want or who you really are, where it is that you're trying to go, can be very confusing, which then can lead to a very toxic situation, um, which then can turn into a very abusive relationship, whether it be emotional, mental, and or physical. And so I think that in situations like that, it's um, safe to say to figure out what it is that you want and you truly want, and to be able to sit down and have that conversation with yourself, because one day you might want it this way, but tomorrow you might want it a whole nother way, because you might really just be confused on what it is that you really want, because you've been living in that circle with somebody else for so long that you lost who it is that you were.
You
I just
just made me think about something. I'm sorry. I'm having a Devin moment.
go ahead.
So I'll say this quick and then we'll I just was remembering when I got my tattoo because I had my abuser's name tattooed on my back until I got this beautiful rose cover up that's about this big. But anyway, when I got that tattoo, he would just exploit me. He would it just clicked today, like abusers exploit. They like to exploit you. They like to put you on a pedestal when it's convenient, when it's something that makes them feel good about themselves. This fool would literally take my shirt and be like, look at what her back says. Look at what her back says. And when I would get uncomfortable about it, he would get an attitude about it. And that would turn into something else. Abuse is also exploitation. Don't exploit me. I am not your figurine. You're not gonna exploit me for your own personal gain. Sorry, y'all. That just
Yeah,
I
women are not property.
Yeah, I've seen that too. But I want to tell Miss Devin that I want to thank you for being vulnerable. I experienced that too, you know. But it was the opposite way. Like I was very strict and stern and a disciplinary with my two oldest kids. because of what I was going through. I was already stressed out. It was a lot for me to deal with. So I was like really stern with them. But it was the last the last relationship that was very, very physically abusive. I had a like moment where it was like, you don't like being treated this way, so why would you treat them that way? You know what I mean? And I also grew up with kids that to be seen, not heard. You don't talk back. Don't nobody care how you feel. Shut up, sit down, do what I tell you, right? It was just like a moment where everything just came full circle. And I was just like, this is what ended you here today with this, with these mannerisms and the way that you think. Do you want that for your children? And that's what made it easier, kind of like what Davina was saying. You have to figure out what you want, but I couldn't really say what I wanted because I never really experienced healthy, you know what I mean? I didn't know exactly what I did want, but I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want nobody talking to me the way I talk to my kids. I know I didn't like the way my family talked to me like that. I didn't want to be hit when someone didn't want, when I wasn't doing something the way that somebody wanted me to do it, you know? And that's when I stopped really being that way with my kids. And it was like an awakening. So I understand where you're coming from. And I believe that God will give you revelation. And I believe that it's going to come full circle for you too. But I just really appreciate you sharing that because I don't think I've ever shared that with anybody. I felt really bad about it. And my kids would tell me too, like, I was emotionally unavailable. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with what I was dealing with, I couldn't be emotionally available for them because I was numb. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting mentally abused, emotionally abused, physically abused. I'm a shell of a person. I'm
Mhm.
here call myself trying to be a mom, trying to be a parent, and like you said, I want the best for my kids, but that's not how we do it. You know, it's kind of like the golden rule: you treat people the way you want to be treated, even if it is your kids. You know what I mean? We grew up in a way where I don't know, I can't speak for y'all, but my parent didn't treat me like that. My parents treated me less than. You're a child. You're not my friend. You don't. Yeah, I don't care what you like and what you don't like. You know what I mean? But it really just changed my perspective. So I just wanted to share that with you.
I grew up like that too, V. So um, I I grew up in the world where I learned how to put on an abundance of armor, and so Devin knows like I I trickled that off onto my kids. When me and Devin met, Devin used to be like, "Dang, why you hit her like that?" Like, because there was a child's place always. Like my kids always needed to stay in a child's place, and when they wasn't in a child's place, then I felt like I wasn't doing my job as a parent. And it was because of all of the abuse that I had been through, and so I felt like I needed to keep them in this safe place, like, and that safe place was a child's place because that was the only place that they would be safe. That was the only way that I'd be able to protect them from all of the monsters out here in the world. Like, is for you to stay in this child's place. And so I felt like I had to keep control over you. And the only way that I can keep control over you is by placing fear into you, is because that's how I learned. Um, and I didn't learn that that wasn't the truth until I got older and got more tools in my box. Now I have my son, and I realize that I don't have to put my hands on him in order for him to understand where his place is in life. And then I also understood that there is no such thing as a child's place unless we design that together. Like a child's place is where you and I talk about where it is that you need to be and remain. Like I can tell him all day long to go to a child's place, and he's going to be like, well, where is that place? He ain't gonna know what that is until we talk about it. Like that's a place we got to talk about. We got to design that together. But I did learn, like, in order to get him to be a child and do certain things, it's just as easy to talk to him as it was for me to put my hands on my daughters. And I didn't know that because I wasn't able to break those cycles. And so I talk to my children now and let them know, like, I was in a lot of abusive relationships and I was abused in the home. And so all of that abuse just carried over. And out of fear of not wanting you guys to go through that. And out of trauma and just generational lessons of how it is that that is what I thought that life was supposed to be like. That's just what I chose to do. Those were the tools that I had. I don't know whose that is. But those were the tools that I had in my box, and I didn't have any other tools at the time. But now that I have other tools, like, yes, you can talk to a child just as easy as you can put a hand on a child.
I did want to also add, just when we were talking, you know how you have those friends who are like, well, that's just how we are. That's just our relationship. Because they got used to being toxic. It's still toxic. It's still abuse. Whether you want to call a spade, that's is still what it is, whether you're accepting it or not. And I think sometimes we, like you said, put that wall up and put that armor on, and try to convince ourselves that we're not dealing with certain things because we're not ready to actually deal with certain things.
Mhm.
Um, so if there is anybody who's watching this and maybe, something we said, kind of triggered something, and even if you just want to talk to somebody and you're not trying to necessarily leave, but you just want some clarity on things, and maybe you just need to vent. That's what our group is for. That's what our events are for. That's what our podcasts are for. We're not trying to say everyone is out here being abused, because that definitely is not the case. But if you are in a situation where you are dealing with something that is not positive, and that is not, um, you know, not going the way it's supposed to be, like Eb said, that feeling when something's right and when something's not right. um, Say something about it. That's what we're here for. We're not here to put no judgment on nobody. We're not going to put your business out there. We're not that type of a group. So I just wanted to say that, because sometimes um, we have a group full of over 1,000 women, and I feel like we could be helping way more people than we do. And it may be out of fear of people just not even being ready for it. You coming to our event is not, you signing papers to say you're moving out tomorrow, or we're going to tell your spouse about you being there, or anything like that. So we do have those supportive services if you wanted to have those one-on-ones with us. Those did start this month, so please email us if you do want that. You could even message us. Our email is womenempoweredmn@gmail.com. We also do have, which I actually just got in the mail, our self-care journal. So if anyone did not know, oh, let me see.
In front of your face. No.
Okay, well, that didn't work.
Like, yeah.
Well, anyways, we do have a self. There we go.
There
We
you go.
do have a self-care journal, which is on Amazon. It's 19.99, and you get some good stuff in here. I ain't gonna show y'all, because that's what you need to purchase it so you can see what's in here. But we did put our time and effort into this, and we do appreciate anybody who does purchase this. All the proceeds for these books go back into our business. So if you are wondering that, we're not going to get rich off the book. We're actually putting it back into our business so we can help y'all even more. So yes, we appreciate y'all supporting us. We appreciate y'all watching our podcast, joining us with our events. Our next event is on November 9th. Um, we are saying the color is pink, like this. But
I think
you're not required to wear pink, but you
No.
can wear pink if you would like. So I don't want anybody to say, I don't like pink, I don't want to come. If you got pink, put some pink on and come with us.
And
One way.
really, I really want people to get away from the stigma mentally of thinking, I ain't gonna know nobody there. I'm not gonna I don't know anyone, or I don't know if I'll feel comfortable, we'll make you feel comfortable. Come. We have some great vendors that have already signed up to come and showcase their businesses already. We've got some great things lined up. Self-love and accountability. I mean, we're going to do some activities that's going to help you enhance your own self-love. It's not an abuse event. It's an event to help you prosper and grow in areas of self-love and being accountable for yourself. This is the third one that's been done. So please come, and we look forward to seeing you guys. It is at Gather, which is the old Billy's on Grand. But yeah, come through.
857 grand.
Yes, it's in St. Paul. So, and it is accessible on the bus line. I know the train comes through St. Paul. So, if transportation is an issue, I know that is something that is easily accessible via Metro Transit. So, if that is an issue, we're trying to find different venues that people can get to. So, if there is a city you want us to have an event in, let us know, because we are kind of moving around in different places so we can get everyone to be able to attend things, whether it's closer to your home or easily accessible. So, anything else you ladies would like to say?
Just want to say thank you to Pinky for sharing. She dropped off, but thank
Yes,
Yes.
you,
Thank you.
you for sharing because that's going to help somebody else.
yes, and I appreciate her for being so transparent. I wish she was still on because I did want to give her some love afterwards. But if there is anyone else, do we have any more spaces for podcasts for this month?
I think one more. Next, one more. Yeah, we got someone for next week, the week after.
Okay, so yeah, if anybody wants to join us next, not next month, not next week, but the week after. So in 2 weeks, if someone would like to come and share their story, you don't have to share anything you are not ready to share. But if you would like to share your story that is in regards to domestic violence, let us know. You can join us on the podcast, and we'll have some more things coming next month. It might not be necessarily domestic violence related, but if you wanted to join a podcast, let us know, because we are open to so many things, and we're gonna start doing our Saturday podcast again with where we spotlight businesses. So if you have a business and you want to be on a podcast, let us know.
Hot seat.
Hot Seat Saturday and Cocos and Convos. If you want to join us for that, let us know. We are trying to network as much as possible. We're just of olive tree, and we're trying to be available to anyone who needs us to be available for them. So I will let y'all go. I'm just rambling now at this point.
No, you're not, because it's like there's a lot that needs to be said.
So much.
And you said it all. The Eventbrite is up. Please purchase your tickets for the event on 11/9. We look forward to seeing you guys. If you guys have any questions about the event, please reach out to any one of us and we can help you.
This is how big it is. So you can see, you can actually journal,
Yes,
and
you can journal.
yeah, it's some good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a 2025 journal.
Yep,
Look at me.
2025.
Look at me. We're gonna have to all get on our phones next time so we can do
I
that too.
don't-
I know.
Yes.
Just act like mine's doing that. Do-do-do-do-do.
So cute. All right. Well, I
No,
love
but
you,
we love
ladies.
you guys.
Anybody want to pray us out, Veronica?
Sure, Ed, why not?
Thank you. We're going to pray, ladies.
Well, Heavenly Father God, I just want to thank you for giving us an opportunity and time to just come together, God, and just discuss like how you pulled us all so far. Lord, I just pray for Pinky and her family, God, that you will continue to restore them. We know that you take all things that the enemy meant for bad and turn them around for good, God. Lord, I pray that this podcast reach people that need it the most, Lord God. I pray that healing will happen, revelation will come, that strength will be given, Lord God. Lord, I just pray that you continue to use us in a way that only you can use us to reach your people, Lord God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Sorry,
Amen.
the dog was barking. I had to go. My bad, y'all.
That's okay.
Hey,
No, no,
Nina.
that's
Thank
okay.
you for that. I
All
needed
right.
that.
Yes. No, thank you. And thank you everyone who watched the live or the recording later. We love y'all. We'll let y'all go. See you next week.
There's the YouTube.
Bye, Tabitha. Love you, girl.
Bye.
Bye.